Hi, I'm Gabriella, and in this screencast I'm going to be talking about emotional tension in video games. The game I have chosen to talk about is Outlast. Topics I have chosen to talk about are sound and music, disturbing imagery, story and gameplay. In the horror game Outlast, emotional tension is created in a few different ways. The first one that I noticed was through sound and music. Outlast uses very dramatic music purely to invoke fear into the player and give them a sense of urgency. As you can see and hear from the clip, as soon as I am found, the man starts to chase me and the music ramps up. The player is then forced to run and find somewhere to hide. This can include in beds or in lockers. As a player, I can use doors to break up the chase, but ultimately I need to find a way to escape or to hide as a temporary solution. I played this scene with no music or sound and found it to be a lot less scary, therefore showing the importance of music and sounds to create tension. I think this quote is pretty relevant to what I'm talking about, due to the fact that if this scene didn't have as dramatic music as it did, it wouldn't be as effective as it should be. If I used a happy upbeat song, it wouldn't be anywhere as near as scary, let alone dramatic. It would just make it silly and totally revoke everything what the game stands for. Outlast does use the same style of music just in different situations, and it does become consistent throughout the game and does become a little repetitive towards the end game, and this can cause the player to become desensitized, and moments like this become more predictable and easier to handle for the player. Another technique used in Outlast is disturbing imagery to create a certain type of tone. In this clip you walk past a mutilated body accompanied by some creepy old style music in the background, which really sets an eerie atmosphere for the player and forces them to question what the hell happened here, or do I really want to find out. I think this scene that I am about to show creates a lot of tension due to the amount of things that you have to focus on, such as the battery life of the camera, and whilst doing so you have to try and hide and find the exit. And not only that, you have a crazy guy telling you how much he loves you and wants to stay with him forever, which can be frightening for a player because this person is human and the player can identify this in the real world.
Did I frighten you? I'm awfully sorry, I didn't mean to. I know, I've seen your face. Maybe, just before I woke up. Though it seems like it's only now, being here with you. Let me think.
The scene for me is really tense, especially towards the end of the sequence where you can see him getting closer to you as you are under pressure to escape. As a player, you are forced to run and find some way of escape without really knowing where the hell you are. You're entering a new area you've never been before, so you run an instinct, similar to how you would in real life. Outlast also has many unsettling images such as this, and the story they tell is pretty disturbing in itself, which is uncovered in the form of forms like files, like in hospitals. Outlast mainly focuses on the atmosphere and sound and not the story, even though it has one. The main objective of the game is to escape the asylum. The story of Outlast is deeper than it looks, but chooses to give you the story in parts so that the player has to choose to read to get a full understanding of what's going on. For example, here is Chris Walker's file. He is one of the main enemies in the game and that you end up seeing multiple times. His story is never really addressed well in gameplay, but is found out through reading files that the player has to uncover. Outlast is set in a very closed environment filled with corridors and lots of obstacles, which also creates tension as it gives the player the feeling that they have nowhere to go. And as you progress throughout the game, you actually find yourself going deeper into this island, which makes the player question, will we ever escape? The player is forced to hide under tables and under beds and lockers to not get caught. The hiding mechanic in Outlast works well, but really fails to add variety to gameplay, because the further you get into the game, you realise unless the enemy actually sees you go into a locker, then you are safe. And this can be easily exploited and takes away that fear of being found that it did so well in the early game. The story of Outlast isn't really pushed upon the player, as it doesn't really need a story to work as a game. Outlast works on scare tactics such as the fear of the unknown, loud noises, and placing enemies in the way of the main objective that the player is forced to use stealth around because they can't attack. Another feature in Outlast that is not always typical in horror games is that the player has no weapon or any way of defending themselves. This creates more tension, as the only thing the player can do is defend themselves is to run or hide, which in some cases makes the player feel helpless. I think this quote fits pretty well. Even though the player knows they wasn't seen by the enemy, they still scare themselves by thinking they're going to be found when they're really not. This is the fear of the unknown. Outlast uses very different sounds in the background to show the player that they are not alone or just put in there to freak the player out. These usually include things like loud bangs or voices in the back. I'll use this quote again because this quote sums up it pretty well. We hear noises in the background. Even though we see no immediate danger in front of us, we instantly assume that there is something bad and we scare ourselves more than we actually should. Overall, I think Outlast uses sound and atmosphere to create a good emotional tension throughout the game. Game managers use many techniques such as disturbing imagery and atmosphere and sound to create a really tense environment, and it does this very well. And it does it to a level that we've never really seen before in a horror game. In a lot of ways it's realistic and it could possibly happen, but where this falls short is giving the player the same tension that it did early game, because it becomes repetitive and doesn't really deliver anything new to the table towards the end of the game. To end this screencast, I'm going to end with this quote. Watching a horror film gives us back some control. We can experience an adverse event through film and we know it will end well, we'll survive it, we'll go on with our lives. A game doesn't give you much control in the sense that you never really know what is going to happen. A video game has much more of a surprise factor.